Pay close attention. What you are about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy. Jeff, it seems like the parasites in pork are at it again.
That's right, Katan. Bacon is the breakfast meat of choice for many people. However, the latest study published by the British Journal of Cancer is from researchers at the respected Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden. The new study shows evidence that eating just 2 slices of bacon a day can increase a person's risk of developing pancreatic cancer by almost 1/5.
Now, researchers found if someone eats as little as 2 ounces, the equivalent of 1 sausage or 2 slices of bacon, it raises their risk for acquiring the disease by 19%. It's also important to note that pancreatic cancer is the 4th deadliest form of cancer, having only a 5% survival rate after 5 years.
Wow. Now, customers scuffled with security and others pelted Apple's Beijing store with eggs after being told the launch of the iPhone 4S was canceled. Crowds formed overnight after Apple had said that sales will begin at 7 a.m. local time. Apple then enraged buyers by abruptly canceling the launch just 2 hours before the scheduled release. Most customers refused to leave and demanded an explanation.
One customer said, "I'm suffering from cold and hunger, but now they won't sell. Why?" he asked. Another customer said, "I've been waiting since 4 o'clock yesterday until 7 o'clock this morning. Apple's broken a lot of Chinese customers' hearts. A lot of us will be very disappointed at Apple." Now, there were fights between customers and security staff until police arrived. The crowds finally left the store around 10 a.m. local time.
Now, Apple says it decided to put off the launch because there was customer chaos.
Now, a U.S. and Israeli-led war with Iran looks inevitable. Or is it? Well, as reported by RT, American mainstream media is being blamed for a buildup in the people's minds that when it comes to Iran, war is the only solution.
With a military standoff brewing in the Straits of Hormuz and sanctions looming over Iran's nuclear program, it's a sensitive time. Many hardline speakers of U.S. mainstream media seem to be pushing their audience to believe that war is inevitable. Views like there's really 2 options.
1, bomb Iran, or let Iran get the bomb. And the better way to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons is to attack its nuclear weapons program directly. Now, these are just a few reasons why people are thinking the U.S. is headed into war again, although experts disagree with this view.
Now, Dr. Charles Kupchin from the Council of Foreign Relations said, "I don't think we are there yet." That is to say at the preface. The media, however, has been preparing the grounds for it.
Some by misinforming the public. The New York Times, in fact, wrote that threats from Iran aimed at both the West and at Israel, combined with recent assessment by the International Atomic Energy Agency that Iran's nuclear program has a military objective, is becoming an important issue in the American presidential campaign. But the IAEA did not report Iran's nuclear program has a military objective.
Now, they showed it might have the technology to develop a nuclear weapon if it wants to. Here is another public misconception due to a lack of information. The media speaks as if the Iranians are not allowing anyone to see their facilities. However, we should assume they are hiding and developing the nuclear weapons, giving the U.S. a reason to plan attack such airstrikes.
So, why is the U.S. mainstream media rooting for war? Well, Jeff Cohen, a former senior producer of a popular TV show before the Iraqi invasion, says they were under pressure by their bosses to do so because their owners benefited from it. He told RT it was a constant pressure campaign to make sure that the pro-invasion voice was a dominant one.
He agrees not much has changed in U.S. mainstream media journalism since the Iraqi invasion. There is no doubt that the mainstream media are crucial in selling this idea that U.S. is going to be in a perpetual war, he says. Media analysts say since the intervention in Libya, U.S. media has been heavily involved in getting Americans used to the idea that Washington will continue military intervention abroad.
Robert Perry said, I worked at Newsweek as well as AP and other major U.S. news organizations. And what I saw, especially at places like Newsweek, was that this idea that the media was actually part of the establishment, that American people were to be guided more than informed.
Now, talking wars has become more common among most American media. So much so that when the White House announced it wanted to begin negotiations with the Taliban after a decade of unresolved war in Afghanistan, saying, you have to have a political solution at some point, the words political solution came across as unheard of.
That's right. Fox News reporter Shepard Smith showed his disbelief, commenting, peace talks with the Taliban? It's come to this? Tell me more about these peace talks. That may sound a little weird to some of our viewers. It seems the words political solutions don't belong in the U.S. media vocabulary for two main reasons.
Well, one, the idea that conflicts with other nations can be solved through peaceful dialogue is boring, which does not get high ratings. And second, some very powerful people are behind the scenes pushing for this war is great journalism.
There is nothing new. This, of course, is nothing new, If we go back more than 100 years to 1898, we can see how the American public opinion was swayed toward war with Spain over Cuba.
William Randolph Hearst, the multimillionaire and leading newspaper publisher, falsified the reason for a sunken American ship in the Cuban harbor, reporting it was caused by the Spanish, when in reality it sunk because of a coal bunker explosion.
Hearst made the call to his illustrator in Havana saying, you furnish the pictures and I'll furnish the war. More than 100 years later, the phrase still sounds relevant, but it doesn't have to be this way. And some argue political solution, although not popular words in the media vocabulary, is better than war and death. Now we now turn it over to our correspondent Larry McGee, bringing us up to date on the events in Washington. Larry?
Thanks, Katan. The Obama administration unveiled an extensive new budget plan this week that has many people scrambling to understand exactly what it represents for the United States and abroad. Bryant Becker, co-director of the Answer Coalition, interviewed for Russia's RT News, assessed the budget plan as a sort of throwback policy, which basically reflects American thinking the first decade after the Cold War conflict, which, curiously enough, found America similarly involved in multiple overseas conflicts, one of which, in fact, was Desert Shield, with many people believing the latest American efforts in both Iraq and Afghanistan to have been miserably unsuccessful, both militarily and politically. This recent measure being proposed by the administration is being viewed as an effort by the U.S. to regain its poise and regroup, and has been described by President Obama himself as nothing more than a representation of the American goal of maintaining its military supremacy. With the Congress, however, which has been doggedly hostile to everything Obama, most are wondering whether or not the budget even stands a decent opportunity for passing. Yet, for its agreement with the Pentagon's current perspective, most believe it will. On the question of whether or not, at some point, the president, who has developed a reputation with some for changing course, might reconsider the budget stipulations and go another route, the sentiment is once again that the budget is so in line with the military establishment and its present objective to extend the American empire throughout the world that the political pressure, which usually underlies those sorts of reconsiderations, simply won't be there. In the final analysis, it's important to note that the budget doesn't propose to cut military spending, but merely slows its projected growth, feeding a slow and steady approach, which in typical chess-like fashion pictures the American empire already looking past its current conflict with Iran and roaming over the Pacific Asian continent to confront and eliminate its next and biggest competitor, the People's Republic of China. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan, Jeff, back to you.
Thanks for that report, Larry. Stay tuned for our next program where Yisrael Hawkins explains Bible prophecy. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for joining us.